Hi, I'm Lisa. Let's learn some professional words and expressions that native speakers use. One of the main ways that you can recognize a native speaker compared to a non-native speaker is the expressions they use. Generally, native speakers use so many of them. For example, a non-native speaker might say, 10 lawyers work for our firm. But a native speaker might say, we have 10 lawyers on staff. So they would use the expression on staff. A non-native speaker might say, how did you choose your profession? But a native speaker might say, how did you get into the field? They use the expression, get into the field. And that's one of the final steps of fluency, to not only be able to understand the expressions, but to be able to use them yourself. This is part 2 of my conversation with a native speaker who works in Los Angeles. You will listen to my conversation with Ashley Fitch. Ashley is an interior designer working for an architecture firm. During my conversation with her, Ashley used a lot of expressions that I would like to teach you. These are expressions that native speakers use all the time. This is why I like this method of teaching. First, you listen to the native speaker, and then I come back and I teach you the exact meaning of those expressions, and then we practice the expressions with other example sentences. That way, you get a good understanding of the meaning of that expression. I recommend that you pause the video after each expression that you learn, and then you create your own sentence, something related to your own life, to your own work situation. That way you hear yourself saying the sentence. Make sure you say it out loud. When you do that, you're more likely to remember the expression, and then you'll be able to use it when you're having conversations in English. Ashley works for an architecture firm called Studio PCH. And do you know what PCH means? Pacific Coast Highway. PCH goes all the way from the top in Washington State, and then it goes through Oregon, and then it comes down to California. And Studio PCH designed a restaurant that's located on PCH in Malibu called Nobu. And now there are Nobu restaurants and Nobu hotels in different parts of the world. In this clip, she talks about the challenges of her job, the difficult parts of her job. Let's listen to her, and then I will come back and we will talk about the expressions that she used. I would think that dealing with people could be challenging.
Definitely.
And stressful.
Yeah.
There's always deadlines or...
Definitely. It's time, it's money. They want it done ASAP. If you go over budget, it's not acceptable. The owner has a budget in mind, and they don't necessarily communicate that budget up front, but they will wait until we have renderings and a preliminary design, have a general contractor price it all out, see what it comes down to, and from there, if that price isn't acceptable, if it doesn't work, if it's way over budget, then we go through a value engineering process. We call it VE.
What is value engineering?
Value engineering is basically cutting costs. Plain and simple.
Value engineering means cutting costs.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's a nice way to put it.
It's a nice way to say, let's do it cheaper.
Exactly. We don't want to spend this much money. Let's do it cheaper.
Okay. It's so interesting to me how these words exist.
Yeah, I know.
To explain something. It just sounds so much nicer to say, let's do some value engineering.
Those words for a designer is like a dagger to the heart. But
let's do some value engineering is like a dagger to the heart.
Yeah.
I'm sure that most of you know this expression, ASAP.
Time, it's money. They want it done ASAP.
Some people say ASAP, and some people say ASAP. Ashley said they want it done ASAP. And you know what that means, right? As soon as possible. Repeat after me. The boss wants it done ASAP. You'd better do it ASAP. Let's listen to the way Ashley used the expression to have in mind.
The owner has a budget in mind, and they don't necessarily communicate that budget up front.
To have something in mind. Ashley said, the boss has a budget in mind. To have something in mind is to have a plan, an idea about what you want to do. For example, I often hear it used this way. You go to buy a car and you say to the salesman, I'd like to buy a car. And he says, do you have a budget in mind? Do you have a budget in mind? That means, how much money do you want to spend? Or, let's do something tonight. What do you have in mind? Repeat after me. What do you have in mind? What do you want to do? Let's listen to the way Ashley used the expression up front.
The owner has a budget in mind, and they don't necessarily communicate that budget up front.
Up front means in advance. And Ashley said they don't necessarily communicate the budget up front. And that means they don't tell you in advance. And you can also use up front this way. You need to pay up front. We need 50% of the money up front. Ashley used the expression to go over budget 2 different times. Let's listen to the way she used it.
If you go over budget, it's not acceptable.
The first time, she said, if you go over budget, it's not acceptable. To go over budget is to cost more than the amount allowed in the budget. You can say, the house is half finished and it's already over budget. Or the boss is angry because we went over budget. And let's use the word way, because she also said way over budget.
If it's way over budget, then we go through a value engineering process. We call it VE.
Instead of saying a lot or too much, you can say way. Is German similar to Russian? No, it's way different. Or it was way too hot today. Repeat after me. The project is way over budget. Let's listen to the way Ashley used VE, value engineering.
Value engineering is basically cutting costs. Plain and simple.
Value engineering means cutting costs.
Yeah.
She said value engineering is basically cutting costs. So to save money. And let's look at a sentence that I found online using value engineering. Through some value engineering, a project at Lake Wichita may be completed for less than the expected price tag. And I'm sure you know what cutting costs means, right? To spend less money or to lower the costs. But let's make sure you can use it in a good sentence. Repeat after me. In an effort to cut costs, they fired a lot of employees. In an effort to cut costs, they fired a lot of employees. And let's look at the way Ashley used put it. It has nothing to do with the verb to put. It has a different meaning.
It's a nice way to put it. It's a nice way to put it.
She said it's a nice way to put it. That's a very common expression. When we say to put it, it means to say it, to express it in a certain manner, in a certain way. And usually when you're trying to be more polite, you can say, I need to find a way to put it. People often say, let me put it to you this way. Or if you're afraid that you might say something wrong or hurt someone's feelings, you might say, how should I put it? For example, if you want to say to someone that the dress doesn't look so good on them, it doesn't fit well, you might say something like this. Well, how should I put it? I think you should keep shopping until you find the right dress. It's a better way to say it, or just a different way to say it.
It's a nice way to put it.
I like the next expression. Let's listen to how Ashley uses a dagger to the heart.
Engineering. Those words for a designer is like a dagger to the heart. But
let's do some value engineering. It's like a dagger to the heart.
Yeah.
A dagger is a short, pointed knife that's used as a weapon. And she said, those words for a designer, it's like a dagger to the heart. And if something is a dagger to your heart, it hurts you deeply and you suffer very much. For example, we can say, when he found out that she was in love with another man, it was like a dagger to the heart. It was very painful for him. He suffered very much. So when Ashley hears that they have to cut costs and all of her wonderful ideas can't be used, because the budget doesn't allow it, it's like a dagger to her heart.
Engineering. Those words for a designer is like a dagger to the heart. But
let's do some value engineering. It's like a dagger to the heart.
Yeah.
In the next clip, I ask Ashley to tell me about some common misconceptions about her job. Let's listen to how she answers, and then I'll come back. What are some misconceptions about your job?
When I'm talking to friends or family members and they are asking me, what I'm doing, and I tell them I'm an interior designer, I get a lot of, oh, that's so nice. You must just have so much fun picking out beautiful things all day long, selecting fabrics. Like, oh, that sounds like a dream job. When in reality, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. It's blood, sweat, and tears. It's nonstop, and there's a lot of technical documentation that happens. The design firm that I work for is very technical. The founder is an architect. I have an architecture background. We have architects on staff. We also have interior designers on staff. We have artists on staff. We're drawing plans, finish schedules, 3D modeling. And it's also about space planning and layouts and interior architecture.
Let's listen to the way I use the word misconception. What are some misconceptions about your job? I asked Ashley, what are some misconceptions about your job? And a misconception is an incorrect view, a wrong belief because of not understanding something. We can say, the idea that money will bring happiness is a misconception. People believe it's true, but it's not true. Let's listen to the way Ashley used the expression behind the scenes.
When in reality, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. It's blood, sweat, and tears.
She said, in reality, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. What you don't see, in private, behind public view. We can say, they seem happy together, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. The next expression is blood, sweat, and tears. Let's listen to how Ashley used it.
When in reality, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. It's blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears means hard work with a lot of effort and suffering. We can say, after many years of blood, sweat, and tears, he built a successful company. And I remember when I was a teenager, the first time someone told me about blood, sweat, and tears. I was 15 years old and I was in high school, and I was really struggling in my French class. And I was so sad that I didn't understand French grammar. And my teacher said, Lisa, if you want to be fluent in French, it's blood, sweat, and tears. I went home that day and I worked really, really hard, and I finally understood this very difficult grammar concept, and I felt so much better. Finally, French grammar began to make sense to me. And later, I majored in French at UCLA, and then I taught French. Before I taught English, I used to teach French when I was in my 20s, and that's how I became a French teacher, because of those words. The teacher told me that learning a language is not easy. It requires a lot of effort. So you remember that too. If you work hard, you can become truly fluent, but you have to put a lot of effort into it. Okay, let's go on to the next expression. Let's listen to the way Ashley used on staff.
We have architects on staff. We also have interior designers on staff. We have artists on staff.
And that means people working for a company, employees. A company can say, we have people on staff to answer your questions. That hospital has 300 physicians on staff. I asked Ashley about her dream home, what kind of house she would design for herself. Let's listen to her answer. With all that knowledge, do you have a dream house in mind for yourself? If I were in your profession, I would know what I wanted. I would know exactly what I would want in my own home.
You would think that, but we're exposed to so many different types of styles of design, and I appreciate so many different styles.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's going to be a little bit tricky honing in on, which style to go for. I think it would depend on the location of my dream home. If it's a Malibu home, I know exactly what I want it to look like, James Perse, that style. But if I, move to Aspen, Colorado, it's going to be completely different. But my fiance is also an architect. We are having constant discussions on houses and, what we're going to do. Are we going to buy a fixer-upper and renovate and do it ourselves? Because we would be the perfect team to really do that.
You would be.
Yeah.
And you would probably save a lot of money that way rather than buying something that someone else completed.
Exactly. And I think we have specific tastes as well. So if we do buy something that is previously renovated, it's definitely not going to speak to us specifically. There's going to be certain things that we'll want to change. So we might as well just start from scratch.
Do you work as a consultant? I mean,
I should start charging them.
You should start charging for that. That's a very valuable skill.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the way Ashley used the expression, you would think that.
You would think that.
You would think that means it's logical to think that. It's logical to expect it, but it's not necessarily true. We can say, this is a brand new car. You would think that it wouldn't need any repairs after just 6 months. He's a grown adult. You would think that he would make wiser choices. But he doesn't make good choices. Let's listen to the way Ashley used I appreciate. Of course, you know the expression I appreciate it, which means thank you, but Ashley used it differently. Let's listen.
And I appreciate so many different styles.
Ashley said that she appreciates all different kinds of design, all different kinds of styles. To appreciate can mean to recognize the value of something or someone, to understand how good something is. We can say, he appreciates modern art. We both appreciate classical music, and we like to go to concerts together.
And I appreciate so many different styles.
Let's listen to the way Ashley used fixer-upper.
Are we going to buy a fixer-upper and renovate?
She said, are we going to buy a fixer-upper and renovate and do it ourselves? A fixer-upper is a house that you buy that needs a lot of repairs, and it's usually less expensive, but you need to fix it up. It's a fixer-upper. And the opposite of fixer-upper is move-in ready. Move-in ready. You just move in and everything is ready. You don't need to fix anything. Would you like to buy a house that's move-in ready, or would you prefer a fixer-upper?
Are we going to buy a fixer-upper and renovate?
Let's listen to the way Ashley used to speak to us. It's different from what you might think.
So if we do buy something that is previously renovated, it's definitely not going to speak to us specifically.
She said, it's definitely not going to speak to us. What do you think it means if I say, this house doesn't speak to me? It means it's not my style. I don't particularly like it. I don't feel any kind of connection to it. It doesn't speak to me. Do you like this house? No, it doesn't really speak to me. I'm not excited about it. This expression is usually used for style or for taste. Let's listen to how she used two expressions in one sentence. She used might as well and start from scratch.
So we might as well just start from scratch.
She said, we might as well start from scratch. Might as well means it's logical to do something even if you may not want to do it. It's a practical thing to do. It's best given the situation that you're in. Since all the other restaurants are far away, we might as well eat here. And she said, we might as well start from scratch. To start from scratch means to start from the beginning, to create something new without using anything that already exists. I left my friends and family and started from scratch in a new city. Or their theory didn't work, so the scientists need to start from scratch.
So we might as well just start from scratch.
Let's listen to the way that Ashley and I used to charge.
I should start charging them.
You should start charging for that. That's a very valuable skill.
Yeah.
She said, I should start charging for that. And I said, yes, you should start charging for that. It's a valuable skill. The word charge is often related to payment, to an exchange of money. You can say, how much do you charge? And instead of saying, how much does it cost per hour? You can say, how much do you charge per hour? Or you can say, is there a charge? And that means, do I have to pay? Or is it free? Is there a charge? No, there's no charge. It's free. In the next clip that you will see, Ashley told me why she decided to become an interior designer. Let's listen and then I will come back. Why did you decide to get into the field?
I was inspired early on by my great uncle. He was a landscape architect.
Oh.
And I also know that when I was a kid, I was constantly asking my parents, when can we renovate? When can we redecorate?
Really?
Yeah, I remember so vividly sketching plans for a clubhouse that I wanted them to build for me and my friends to hang out in. Yeah, we have this like little portion of our backyard that connects to the house, and I drew it connecting to the house,
You're kidding.
Yeah.
The next expression is to get into the field. Let's listen to the question that I asked Ashley. Why did you decide to get into the field? I asked her, why did you decide to get into the field? And that means, why did you choose your profession? So a field is your occupation, it's your specialty, it's your profession. You can say, I got into the field 20 years ago. Or, I would like to get into the medical field. A very common question that people ask each other is, what field are you in? That means, what is your job? What kind of work do you do? Why did you decide to get into the field? Do you know what great uncle means? Let's listen to the way Ashley used it.
I was inspired early on by my great uncle. He was a landscape architect.
She said, my great uncle was a landscape architect. Now, great means fantastic, but great uncle does not mean a fantastic uncle. It means the uncle of my mother or my father. We use the word great. Now, here is a very common mistake that a lot of my students make. They very often confuse the word great with the word grand. Listen to this. We have mother, and then my mother's mother is what? My grandmother, right? But how about my grandmother's mother? What is she called? If you said my grandmother, that is not correct, but I hear that all the time. We don't say grand, we say great-grandmother. So we have grandmother, great-grandmother, and then how about the mother of that person? That one is great-great-grandmother. Don't say my grandmother. That's wrong. And let's go in the opposite direction. Child, grandchild, and what comes after that? Great-grandchild. So you can say, she is 95 years old and she has 10 great-grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren if she lived a long time. So don't say grand, it's great-grand. Grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on. Let's listen to the way Ashley used the word vividly.
I remember so vividly sketching plans.
She said, I remember so vividly sketching plans. And sketching means drawing. And vividly means clearly, producing powerful feelings or strong images in your mind. We can say, I vividly remember my first day of school. And I vividly remember my French teacher telling me that learning a language is blood, sweat, and tears. Okay, so remember what I told you. I'd like you to make some sentences using these words so that you can memorize them permanently, and let me know in the comments if you enjoy watching my conversations with native speakers in Los Angeles. If you do, I will make more videos like this. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. Thanks for watching and keep practicing your English. To learn all of the rules for a good American accent, You can buy my online video courses at AccurateEnglish.com.